AI-enabled, AI-powered, AI-driven, AI-enhanced, AI Slop. I'm getting tired of this. This is what we're seeing with every product we use since ChatGPT broke everything in 2022.
Now that marketing's got a hold of it, is it AI? Is it glittery machine learning?
Thank you, Alan. Yes. Every industry, including networking, is slapping on that AI sticker because that's all investors care about right now. Everyone's jumping on this AI hype train and I want to get off. I mean, come on, is adding AI to all of our products actually solving real problems? Is it making us better? And specifically for IT and network engineers, are we seeing real results? That's what I want to figure out in this video. Is this all just AI slop or are there real use cases? Like, as a former network engineer, I want to see this happen. Maybe the network is up all the time. Maybe I don't receive a call at 3 a.m. And while AI is kind of scary for the job market, we're also kind of begging for the things it's promising us. Like this Reddit post here. Where is all this AIOps stuff that's supposed to help us? But first, get your coffee ready. This is a journey. And my journey begins by attending the largest networking conference in the world, Cisco Live. With over 22,000 people, I thought, surely I can find an answer. But what's funny is the interesting story didn't actually happen there. About a mile and a half away, 10 minutes, another event was held by another large networking vendor, Juniper Networks. Now, Juniper heard I was going to Cisco Live and they said, hey, Chuck, you know all this AI stuff people are talking about? We're actually doing it, and we want to show it to you. They also said something about making networking sexy again.
Now, it's no wonder that networking has become sexy again.
So I'm like, all right, let's do this. But seriously, thank you to Juniper for inviting me to their event and helping make this video possible. By the way, this video was made prior to the recent news about the HPE acquisition of Juniper. You can check out the links to the press releases, but I just wanted to give you that bit of context before we continue. All right, let's take a quick coffee break. And here we go. I arrived at the Juniper event just after Cisco announced all their major AI stuff. So AI was already kind of top of mind, and I'm like, man, how's Juniper gonna beat this? But then Sudhir said this.
Today, across the street, you heard a lot of announcements. AI Canvas, AI this, agentic AI, all kinds of stuff. We are not confused about what we are trying to build and who we are trying to be. We are trying to build the industry's first self-driving network, period. End of story.
So I was like, okay, they're not worried, they're not scared. But then I heard something crazy. Rami, their CEO, said,
we've been leading the AI and network convergence for more than 10 years now.
Excuse me, sir. ChatGPT came out in November 2022. There was no AI before that, right? That is kind of how it feels, but AI was very much a thing before ChatGPT. Back then, in the early to mid 2010s, it was not about generative text or chat interfaces. It was about machine learning. And it was more about being very focused at being good at one thing. So it could find patterns in data, make predictions and decisions. And that's exactly what the founders of Mist Networks did. Mist Networks, who's that? I'll make a connection, don't worry, it's coming. The founders Sujay Hajela, Bob Friday, which is an awesome name, sounds made up, and Brett Galloway, all former Cisco employees by the way, founded Mist Systems in 2014.
We were responsible for Cisco's wireless business. We did the acquisition of Meraki in December of 2012. And it inspired the creation of Mist.
With the goal of reinventing enterprise Wi-Fi with cloud computing powered by artificial intelligence, AI. And this is 2014. Now the main difference with their AI versus what we see now is that it was trained very specifically on wireless LAN data. What a good network looks like, what a bad one looks like, how to troubleshoot things. Very specialized. You couldn't ask it how many R's were in strawberry. It didn't care about that. All it cared about was Wi-Fi. They coined the concepts AI for IT or AI is in the air. Kind of cheesy, but I like it. And tell me if this sounds familiar. They wanted to deliver a self-driving network, one that could proactively detect and adapt to issues in real time, saving IT teams money and time. Kind of sounds like what we're talking about with AI now, except this was over 10 years ago. Now were they successful? Yeah, they were purchased by Juniper in 2019 for $405 million. See, the connection's made now. Mist became part of Juniper, and Juniper's like, I love your AI stuff. Let's make it part of all that we're doing. Now think about that for a second. Juniper has had AI in their portfolio, their stuff, since 2019. Mist Systems since 2014. The thing I'm wondering is, does that matter? Like for what we have now, does that 10-year head start make a difference? That's what I want to figure out. Now, one of the co-founders, Bob Friday, again, amazing name, said this about grapes, or AI.
I make a barrel of wine. I always tell people, great wine starts with great grapes. AI has the data. So it's like, getting your arms around the data is usually the first step on the journey to mastering AI.
Now, one thing I've learned about AI so far is that it all depends on the data you feed it, the context you provide. This is true across the board for anything. You can ask an AI like ChatGPT, hey, what should I have for dinner tonight? And it might say Hawaiian sunrise pizza with pineapples and cashews, a perfectly fine answer. But it may not have the context of you, that you might hate pineapples and you're allergic to nuts. Context and data is so important for AI. In the same way, we can't ask an LLM about our network unless it has the context of our network. So how are we giving it that context? How is it learning about our vast, massive, complex networks? Well, what we're seeing right now is a lot of bolt-on AI. Again, slapping that sticker on. We're feeding our LLMs a ton of data about our network. Telemetry data from our routers and switches, packet captures, and just everything. Here you go, friend, figure it out for me, please. And that's kind of what we're seeing with vendors like Cisco. Now, I'm gonna pick on Cisco first because they are one of the largest networking vendors. No hate, I love Cisco. But right now they have a lot of things to pull data from. They've got Thousand Eyes, which when you really think about it, is a scary, scary name for something. Makes me think of one of those angels from Revelation. You know what I'm talking about. It's watching you. And they use it for monitoring their network stuff. So they're getting telemetry from that. They also have Splunk, Catalyst Center, App Dynamics. Now, it's not important for you to know what all these are. I just want to point out that they have a lot of things, a lot of data pouring into an LLM. And while they do have this really neat DPM or deep network model, specially trained on all their networking stuff, they are relying on its ability to take all of that data fed to it and just kind of figure it out, which this might work, but it's still pretty new and I've only seen a demo. But if you've been using AI for any amount of time, you know how tricky it is to maintain a large context and make sure the AI doesn't like hallucinate. Now this right here is how a lot of vendors handle adding AI to their products. Here's all the data and just please figure it out. Juniper, because it had a head start, doesn't do it this way.
And if that looks a little bit gnarly and complex, with a lot of hardware and software and clouds that you have to stitch together, maintain, upgrade, say a prayer when you do it, you're not alone.
Now Juniper, because they've been doing this for a minute, they've structured things a bit differently, a lot differently. And the question I want you to have in your mind is, does that matter? Or does this matter, what I'm about to show you? Now Juniper claims that they are AI native. They've been building their platform from the ground up with AI in mind. And for me, I was like, okay, what does that mean to be AI native? And again, it all comes down to data. Now real quick, it's time for a coffee break and I want to tell you a scary story. Get ready. As I was leaving for this trip to go to Cisco Live and visit Juniper, I'm walking out the door, about to catch my flight, boom, power outage. No big deal, power comes back on, but you know what didn't come back on? My two Proxmox servers. Both of them just would not power on. Running on those servers were my twin gate connectors. I was devastated because twin gate is what I use for remote access for my entire team while we're traveling, and we were about to do that very thing. Now I was in a pinch. I didn't have time to troubleshoot. I can only think to do one thing. In just a few moments, I was able to log into another computer at the studio and deploy another twin gate connector. And just like that, I had connectivity back to my studio from wherever I go. And I was back up and running. I could remote into everything I have, except for my Proxmox servers, obviously. But seriously, that's one of the reasons I love Twin Gate, is it's simple but powerful. You can deploy it in moments, anywhere, in your home network. It's free for home labbers, or as a business owner, man, they make it so easy, but also it's zero trust. It's not your dad's VPN, where it's just a big tunnel that everyone can access everything. No, I can allow my editors to connect back to my NAS, but not to my AI server. I can restrict the ports they're able to access on a server. I get detailed logs of who's accessing what. Seriously, if you're not using TwinGate for your remote access, try it out. Just right now, try it out. It's not gonna hurt you. It'll literally take you 5 minutes to deploy it. And honestly, it's the best remote access solution I've used. So shout out to TwinGate for helping make this video and my trip to Cisco Live and Juniper possible, and for being one of the main sponsors of my channel, helping me do what I do. So please show them some love, check it out. That's the end of my scary story. Proxmox servers were still down until I got home, but that's a story for another time. Back to learning about AI stuff. Now, keeping in mind, data is the most important thing with AI. Juniper's data is stored inside the Mist AI cloud. The entire context of your network in one spot. Wireless APs, switches, routers, clients, the Zoom and Teams APIs, the config, the state, their performance, the quality. All that telemetry is being consistently fed to the Mist AI cloud. And since the beginning, they've had this microservices architecture. So think Kubernetes, that will ingest all that information, figure out what it is, what it means, how it all relates to each other, so it can do a better job at identifying problems, predicting patterns, and zeroing in on the root problem so you can fix them faster. But hold up, what about the data center? I didn't forget about him. Juniper will also throw all their data center stuff up into the Mist AI cloud. But the way they handle that data is interesting. They don't just throw it up unstructured, hoping the AI will figure it out. They have an intent-based networking technology called Abstra, and it's built around this, their contextual graph database. Inside this database is everything you need to know about the current data center, how it's connected, all that's in there, how all the network elements and data points are related to each other. And it's that database that is thrown up into the Mist AI cloud. This is everything about your network, the current state of it. I'm talking RF stats from your APs, cable metrics, optics. What's the current state of spanning tree? What about BGP and OSPF? How's the jitter on Zoom calls? And they have these things called Marvis Minis. They are AI native networking digital experience twins. These little guys are like virtual clients. They're spun up automagically by the Marvis AI, and they learn your network via unsupervised machine learning. And like legit, they are clients. They will authenticate, they will get IP addresses, they will hit your DNS servers, they'll get your SaaS applications. And part of their job is to map client journeys. Essentially, they're always trying to simulate what your clients are doing on the network, and they will try to find anomalies or issues before your users do. This happens all the time, and especially when you make configuration changes. These little guys go in and make sure that you didn't misconfigure a VLAN, or the DHCP pool is messed up. And you may have heard of the concept of an SLA, a service level agreement, where someone like your ISP might guarantee you a certain amount of uptime. Juniper has a thing called SLEs, or service level expectations, the expected performance of an application or experience. And it's these little guys that help kind of monitor that, pretending to be clients. Now, sitting on top of all this is Marvis AI. And this would be more what you would think machine learning is. It's specialized, all it cares about is networking. Eats, sleeps, breathes wireless data centers. This is what was running the Marvis Minis and doing all the unsupervised learning. This sucker knows your network. And on top of that, we have the Marvis AI assistant. Just keep in mind, the assistant at the top is not trying to figure out the network that's already been done. It just knows how to ask Marvis AI good questions, translating your human speak. Now the star here is still the data and how it's handled in the Mist cloud. You might be thinking, okay, Chuck, so what? One place, what does that matter? Well, let's do a scenario real quick. Let's say the CEO of Hackwell Industries, Bernard Hackwell, calls in. He said on Friday at 3 p.m., his Zoom call was terrible. He says, tell me why and fix it. He's a CEO, you gotta do it. Now real quick, think about before AI, how you would answer that question. For me, I'd be like, tell you what, CEO, let me know when it happens again, give me a call, and I'll come see what's going on. I'll do some packet captures or something, try to help you, try to correlate some stuff with my human brain. Now with a solution like Cisco, where you have a lot of different sources you might have to pull data from, you would just tell the deep network model your problem. And I'm sure it's gonna do a great job in understanding what you're describing, but it's gonna have to go out to all these different sources, pull telemetry, to pull data, to figure out the context of what's happening with your network and what happened in that moment. And it might actually find a really good answer. Contrast that with Juniper and how they handle data. And at this point, I'm not saying if one or the other is better, I'm just contrasting how they access data and the context of your network. You would tell Marvis the same thing. Here's my problem. But it wouldn't have to go out to a number of sources and try to figure it out. No, it would simply go boom to Marvis AI, and Marvis AI looks at the current state of the network. It would already have the context that Bernard Hackwell's laptop was connected to AP03, which is connected to switch 1, and it's a router for, I'm just making stuff up. Just trying to move fast here, going out ISP2. This would already be the context. Accessing that context would be like this. And there might already be a node created. Now, I'm not gonna go into the architecture of the graph database, we don't have time for that. But this node might be a quality score, known as MOS, for that Zoom call of 2.4, which is bad. And that was already correlated with a switch port on switch 1 that had a very high increase of CRC errors on port 1024. And so instead of the AI coming up and saying, we found a bunch of errors on all these things, it goes, no. We found the problem. We think it's gonna be a bad patch cable between AP03 and switch 1, port 24. The recommended action is to replace that cable. And what I want to hammer home here is that it didn't have to go out to any other data source to find this information. It went to one spot, the Mist AI cloud, and it already had that client journey mapped out. And let's say they do go out and replace the patch cable and they mark that ticket as done. Then a little Marvis Mini might be spun up to test out that client journey, to hit DHCP, to hit DNS, to simulate that Zoom call, and then come back with a good MOS score and go, you know what, it's good now. Now I was talking with Kyle from Juniper and he was telling me about how Marvis will be able to predict cable failures or optic failures before they become a problem.
So we have enriched data that we talked about from the graph database that has all the relationship and the context information of it. So let's take an example of a common data center issue, an optic failure. And we can start looking at trend analysis. And that's where AI and machine learning models come into play to predict with a level of confidence that this optic is going to fail in a couple of weeks. You need to order a part now before it goes bad and impacts your applications that you are providing as a service.
Now at this point, it's like, okay, all this sounds really cool if it works, right? Like we've heard promises. It looks shiny. I'm excited. I'm also like grain of salt, you know? But Juniper was pretty bold in saying, you know what? Ask our customers. We already have this stuff deployed in our campus and wireless stuff.
Anybody wearing a green lanyard today is an existing Juniper Mist customer. If you call bullshit on anything I'm saying, they're right here. They will not lie to you. They are the same as you. They will carry the story for you. Speak to our customers.
And I'm like, okay, let me talk to one of them. So I talked to Alan. And while Alan is not a customer directly, he does work for a partner, Nexum, and they deploy Juniper stuff to customers.
So I work for an integrator, and so I work with a lot of different customers, and their level of technical ability is varied, and it's been a huge help for them because they can go in and say, hey Marvis, who's having a bad day? And it says, hey, these people are probably having a bad day, here's what you need to look at. And with clicks, you can investigate and they can drill down and say, oh, hey, this is the problem they're having. It's because they need to install this patch on their laptop.
Turns out Alan is actually from my Discord. I didn't realize this. So cool to get to meet you. And I asked him some questions about his experience with Juniper's AI or Mist AI.
So it's able to look back, and for all the clients, it's keeping client state, hundreds of pieces of client data every minute. And so I can go back, and when the CEO calls and says, hey, last Thursday at 3 p.m., I was in this building and my wireless dropped for a second. What happened? I can back up to that. I can look at it and I can say, okay, here's what happened. What that's allowed me to do is now offer those services above and beyond. So I've gotten a lot more into programming, a lot more Python scripting, that kind of stuff to add value. Which is where the AI stuff comes into play.
So I gave the example here, very demo-ish example of the CEO call.
If you want to ask why the CEO had a bad Zoom call last Tuesday, you can actually do that.
I asked Alan, like, can this really be done right now with Marvis AI? And then are we at the point now to where it can actually fix things? Like fix it before we even realize it's a problem?
Marvis will never send you on wild goose chases.
We've gotten to that point in maturity where we can start to trust it to make more decisions.
So, okay, here we are. Juniper's saying, and their customers are saying the same thing, that AI is here in their platform and they're using it and it's awesome. The way they've integrated their AI has been more AI native. They're not new to the space. And the way they deliver the context or the data of the networks of their customers is the unique proposition here. We're already at a point with Juniper's portfolio with their enterprise campus networks, wireless networks, where self-driving, auto-healing networks are here. On the data center side, that is coming soon, according to Kyle.
So where our ultimate vision is going is we want to get to self-driving. I think we're close to it, and we'll get there. But that is the direction we want to get to, and I think we're near that, and that possibilities are very close on what we can do. And obviously, we'll start with the right use cases, yes. And be able to provide that confidence and instill that it's going to work.
So all the detection and troubleshooting stuff is built right in. And if you look at other vendors right now, let's pick on Cisco once more. Right now, they're slapping on the AI sticker and they're trying to get all their legacy components to work together with AI, dumping a lot of data into an LLM that I'm sure is amazing. And it probably does a great job at correlating all that data. But it's still a lot of moving parts. And if you've been in IT for any amount of time, the more moving parts, the more complex, the more often it breaks and the harder it is to troubleshoot. And let's be honest, we know LLMs, even the greatest ones right now, get very confused with too much data. So I find Juniper's approach very interesting. Now, I have not played with it or used it myself, experienced an outage or anything like that, but their customers have. And conceptually, it sounds cool. That one single place, the single pane of glass that we always talk about, the unicorn in IT, seems to exist in Juniper's world. And it's not just Juniper stuff either. They do have support for third-party routers and switches, including every other major vendor. They can interface with their APIs or even legacy and monitoring protocols. So what do you think? Do you think we're at a point now to where AI is finally delivering on the promises? Do you think it's all marketing glitter, shiny tools, or is it real? Maybe you are a Juniper customer and you can tell us in the comments below like what your experience is like. Or maybe you're using other vendors and they've implemented AI in an amazing way and it's saving you so much time. I would love to hear that story. Also, I would like to know if this concerns you. Because let's be honest, this is starting to automate and do parts of a network engineer's job, which at first sounds scary, but then you think about the job of a network engineer. I don't do the job now, but back in the day, I remember my main stressors were the network goes down. I have to figure it out fast. And that stress is insane. Or you get that 3 a.m. call. You're just groggy and you need coffee, but you don't have it. And you're trying to figure out a very, very complex issue at your worst state. If we can avoid those situations and bring in AI to bring better uptimes, that's gonna be phenomenal. Anyways, thanks to Juniper again for inviting me out to their event. But whatever the case, my goal for this video was just to show you what the landscape is right now. It was kind of a deeper dive into Juniper because I got a chance to go dig into what they have. I only got a brief keynote from Cisco. And right now, Cisco stuff is still pending. We should see it later this year, but Juniper stuff has been out for a minute. And honestly, this stuff is kind of exciting. Anyways, that's all I got. I'll catch you guys next time.